How many of you were at the Marshall talk this morning, Marshall Goldsmith? And he basically said, share before death. I think that was what the key message was there. So here I am, sharing before death. So I'm just going to talk to you about harnessing social learning at PA Consulting. As you can see on the notes that you just read, I've only been there since last April, so 9 months there. I head up talent and learning. Before that was 15 years in financial services, so I've been let off for good behaviour to go and work in professional services instead. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're going to talk about. I'm just going to talk you through the PA learning vision, what we did in designing a learning academy, choosing the right technology partner, exciting for cultural change, and some of the business benefits. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. Some of you actually, by the way, were expecting Reese here from Carphone Warehouse, so apologies for that. He is actually coming to work for me at PA Consulting. So he'll be joining us in a month's time, and we're really looking forward to leveraging all of his ideas and thoughts from the work that he's been doing. So actually what you would have been hearing is about what had happened to him a year on when he launched last year. So you're hearing a little bit about us at the beginning of some of that journey, but I promise you that next year one of us will be here talking about what happened the year before. So I'll make sure that's a point. Okay, so the PA learning vision, I mean, pretty standard. You probably all got something quite similar like this in your organisation at the moment. The idea around combining social networking trends or social learning with outstanding formal education to drive a collaborative and agile learning culture that will deliver business results and career growth. So that's really in line with the PA strategy. PA launched a new strategy at the beginning of this year, really trying to focus on, choosing specific markets to work in, 8 different sectors with 10 different services. So the combination of that makes up the offering from PA. So we did a lot of things. We did a lot of work in, some nice music to go with my presentation, that's great. So we did a lot of work in government as well, with defence, with healthcare, financial services, and a range of different sectors and a range of different services, including people and talent. So we did quite a lot of work in the people space. And the reason why I talk about that is in professional services, one of the things that we're doing is we're creating great work for our clients. So as we're out there creating great work for our clients, guess what? If the corporate offering doesn't match some of that great work, then they're not really interested in what we're doing, especially given that we've got people and talent and digital and technology groups that we're selling out. So they're coming to me and saying, well, if it doesn't look that good, I don't really want it. And why aren't Emma? By the way, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Because they've all got opinions about what I should be doing, which is great, but they're not in the role, right? So what we know is social and micro-learning is everywhere, and everybody is doing everything. We all go home, we all Google, we're all on our iPads, we're all burning the midnight oil looking at some stupid Facebook video or something. I had a partner come to me the other day telling me that he had learned how to pluck a pheasant by watching that on YouTube. I said, great, that's called social and micro-learning. Okay. I was saying to people the other day that my best learning this year has been from that movie Inside Out. Has anybody seen that movie, the Pixar movie? It's a fantastic movie with the little characters like the numbskulls. And I just thought it was really, really good. But anyway, the point being is that is everywhere, but it's not yet in the workplace. It's somehow not translating into the workplace. Let me tell you about PA. The learning has been very demand driven, so you get a partner coming along saying, great, I want this, can I have this program? Our partners have been running kind of almost separate little shops, little businesses of their own, if you will, because they're facing out to the clients. They're not so much in the office. They've got their own group practice. They're kind of running their own little bits of business. So they'll just come to us piecemeal. Not linked to business strategy. A lot of our programs are about promotions. They're a lot about transition. How do I get from being a managing consultant to a partner, or how do I do? So there's not much in role. What are the standards that we're actually espousing at partner level, and how do we help you be successful as partner? Not how do we get you to partner. So that's where a lot of our money and effort and time was going. We've been recycling expertise, so as I said, because we've got a lot of experts in the business, they are then teaching our people, because we sell out to clients an element of we're going to teach you at the end of our relationship with you, so teaching you to fish before we exit. That a lot of our consultants believe they're great trainers and want to practice on our own people, and in some cases they are great trainers, and in some cases they're not so great trainers. So there's a lot of this recycling going on. We haven't had clear methodology around the 70-20-10 or around what we want to do about content being much more experiential, much more about mentoring, much more about coaching, and all those good things. It's been very, I mean, we have literally spent 99% of our budget on courses, and when I arrived in April, we had one e-learning program, one. So we were actually quite behind the curve. No learning technology platform, and course driven. So that's what I'm saying. And basically, people were asking me, dude, where's my course? And when I said, actually, I'm turning a lot of courses off towards the end of this year because I want to build out the academy now and actually focus on why are we learning in the first place and what are we here to do? A lot of noise in the organisation. So I was very lucky because I had a lot of support around stakeholders and senior folks across the business. But essentially, that's Ashton Kutcher, that's not me. In case you thought that was me. So 3 doors to open in creating the PA Academy, designing a learning academy in yellow writing that many people can't see, choosing the right technology partner, and exciting for cultural change. And that's kind of our time frame. So it was 9 months to give birth to the PA Academy. We went live on the 11th of January, and let me tell you a little bit about some of the things that we did there. So firstly, what we said was there's one home for all learning. And we designed the right learning framework, and I think many of you have got your learning frameworks, and there'll be something around technical, there'll be something around business, and there'll be something around leadership or interpersonal skills or whatever that is. And so this was ours, and the 4 levels of learning underpinned by performance and career development, performance management, career development. As I say, many of you will have a similar framework. The intent here was to be very visible around communicating this framework and getting people to buy into it, and spending a lot of time socialising it in the first instance. So that's something that we did quite quickly up front, was say this is our new learning framework and this is what we're going to be working to produce learning assets for you around these 4 things. What we also then did was analyse all of the spend and look at that in relation to business growth and the business results. And what we said was we're spending all our money in either professional expertise, so sending people out to conferences like this one, and other conferences. Or we were actually training them in onboarding and consulting skills. What we weren't doing was giving them any support around business development, around selling out, and what's the finesse around creating great client relationships. And we weren't doing anything in leadership. We actually haven't run a leadership program for a number of years. So this is you can see the visibility, the impact of that downstream when you start looking at the decision making and the judgment and the influence that we've been using within the firm. So that's very critical for us to really show people where we've spent the funding and what we want to do next. And many of you might know that PA were actually invested in by Carlyle, a private equity firm, 51%. That went live in January this year. So actually we're now in a partnership with a private equity firm who are looking for significant growth from the firm and believe that the firm are able to do that. So that's critical, that business development piece for us. All the things that we have to do in order to get the academy up and running, governance, communication, methodology, team structure, etc., etc. I mean, you will be thinking about what's all the mix of the things that you've got to do that sits behind that framework, looking at the policies that you have, some of the simple things like how many people get how many hours or days learning, and if it's days, does that mean they can't do micro-learning, etc., etc. So we had to work through all of those critical things, and we actually had to work a lot through the learning and development team as well. So I'm just going to share with you some of the learning points from opening that first door. What worked for us, as I said, was governance support throughout the organisation, stakeholders very much engaged. They launched the new strategy. They said, okay, well, we want the learning to support the new strategy around collaboration and agility. So we're not looking to do something, just tidy up the courses or anything like that. We actually want to invest here. We had the freedom to choose the right vendors, the technology, the learning assets, and get the right blend of each. And I'll talk a bit more about that. That's very important. And we actually had quite a lot of budget. Now, I never would say that if the CEO was sitting in the room, because of course I'd be saying, I don't have any budget and I don't have any money. But we actually did have some good funding in order to invest in getting the right things that we wanted. What I'd do next time round, I thought I'd share that with you as well. I think I would have made my communication over the 9 months much more two-way. I kind of went out and told everybody, right, this is what you're getting. And a lot more kind of show and tell, stood up and did some nice presentations. I would have gone for some more workshop type things and got more engagement around that way. So that's a critical point. The second thing was, I think I would have been quicker to review and reorganise the L&D function, because by the time I got into reorganising and understanding, who was going to really be able to drive forward, new ways of working, that was 6 months in. So by the time I'm crunching those last few months of getting the Academy ready and going live, I'm also, having conversations with people and changing things around. So that was quite hard work for them and for me, sure. And then also, I think I would have got a slightly deeper, I came in April, I would have got a slightly deeper understanding of the maturity of the audience. And what I mean by that is, it's all very well me standing up saying, oh, well, they only had, 99% courses, and so that's great, we can take a great leap forward. But that I've also got the audience because actually if they'd had an LMS and they'd had some things, they might have been more socialised to a big leap. So whilst it was on the one hand it's a great thing, on the other hand, I've still got this problem of, where's my course? I don't really understand why I'm not getting a programme. So just some points to have in your mind about where's the maturity of your own organisation. Okay, so the second door, so to speak, is the choosing the right partner. I'm indoctrinated into wearing my little Fuse tulip here, you can see. We did choose Fuse. We do really like them. We actually did look at a number of different products. What we found was the combination of getting to the cost, the time to implementation, the fact that I'd have to build things rather than buy them, and the fact that there is this agility built into it in that I can work with Fuse. I can actually call Steve myself and be on his case 24/7 to say these are the things that I need now, and I'll call him up and say I need a couple more people to help me support me on this piece. So actually, that combination worked very well for me, because we did look at building. So buying in an LMS and then building out the social learning piece. We also looked at using Yammer alongside an LMS, but in the end we decided, you know what, let's just start afresh. We've got the opportunity to do that and go with Fuse. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. This is what our platform looks like. Actually, it's slightly changed, so it's slightly different. There's a whole piece on how I get started, what are the communities, and then this whole piece around the 4 different areas that I talked about: consulting, leadership, business development, professional expertise. So let me just share with you as well the build out of some of our communities. So we've got some formal communities going in there and some informal communities, which you probably can't read, but I'm happy to send you my slides, by the way, afterwards. And we're just starting to build out. So we only launched on the 11th of January, so we're just starting to see who is starting to play around in what community. As you can see, we do have a couple of communities that are around digital, that are around technology and innovation. So we've already got a head start in the fact that quite a lot of our people are, technology friendly and actually do want, and are kind of crying out for this and are really already in there using and playing and all those good things. These were the first 19 days of the Academy, so we had 43,000 page views over a 10-day period, so it's pretty good for us. As I said, the audience is small for us. We are a small firm, but nevertheless we have seen a lot of activity on the site. Video is the most viewed and liked asset type, and this was I think it was, Celia, that was your point maybe, that you know, what are people looking at, what are they searching for? And Fuse did say to us, actually that's the thing that people are most interested in. We see that with the rise of YouTube, don't we? People looking at YouTube to do, how do I do something? And then that's how they're learning. So we're seeing that kind of trending also in our own site, our academy. So in terms of what worked, speed to market. Once we signed our contracts with Fuse, we were actually running in 3 months. That's pretty good. The understanding of our needs. We actually did do a lot of work on whether we were going to link to PeopleSoft, to single sign-on, other technical considerations that we went through multiple conversations about. And I'm not the techie guy, so I'm not going to repeat all of the things that went on in those meetings. You can talk to Sam, who's over here. But we got through all of those hurdles essentially, and there's quite a lot to get through in terms of what you want to link to what, and we've still got some work to do around our internal kind of SharePoint sites linking up to Fuse as well, because at the moment we've got repositories for information and then we're sharing on our Fuse site, so we've got some homework to do there. On my next time, what would I be doing differently? Okay, I would be very clear about who does what between L&D. We had one small example on that, which was when we actually went live, the day we went live, we were kind of on a phone call and somebody said, oh, do we know what the, whether we've got capacity for any kind of power surge? And everybody's like, no, why would we know that? You know, so it was like, okay, well, we better ring Fuse and ask them if that's going to be an issue. So it was actually, just harnessing some questions there that we needed to know between ourselves and all of the different stakeholders. We were slower on a PA side, actually getting things signed off and getting things moving. So really pay attention to what is happening on your side of the organisation, rather than really be, you're on the case of the vendors, but you actually also need to be on the case of your own people. It's not full beautification. So we actually had some big ideas on look and feel. We wanted to go with something, we probably started out with something quite different in a way, and we've had to compromise. I still think it looks good. I maybe had to, get off my horse a bit about what it looked like. So I'm really easy to work with, though, I can tell you. Right, so the third one was exciting for cultural change, and I think this is the critical point of the whole thing, is what I would say, is actually how do you get people engaged, how do you get them excited in what we're doing? And as I said, and Sharon, as you introduced as well, the critical thing for professionals at our firm is that we're selling out as well as designing for our own people. And so what's happening is you've got clients, as I said, consultants facing out who want the quality that they're creating out for their clients. And they're also inviting clients to programs that we run, and they're also showcasing things that we do in the firm. So there was a big disconnect as I came in between what we were doing in corporate and what the consultants were selling out. So it's very critical for me to design things that the clients would feel very, very proud of. So there are a few things that we did where we created assets. So when we went live with our academy, we actually had about 500 assets in there, 100 of which, or something like that, we created ourselves. So we went out and we hired in a firm of people, a small startup firm, who actually came and did some video content for us, created some beautiful animations, and I'll just showcase those to you, and did quite a bit of work with us to get some really great stuff in there, to getting people excited by what it looked like. So the thought of kind of launching with something that's a little bit empty and a little bit kind of using used stuff, that might be right for some organisations, but it wasn't right for ours. So we did invest in this thing. So just getting you thinking about how that works for your organisation. So this one was actually a SCORM course. Am I saying that right? Sam here created this. It's a career development e-learning program. So you actually go through this as an individual, and you choose what career stage am I at. Am I looking for enrichment? Am I looking for lateral moves? Am I looking for progression? Then you start talking about what kind of learning goals do you want to achieve against the 4 pillars of the proposition, and then you start choosing things that you want to do in the bottom right hand corner around experience, exposure, and and education. So right up front, transferring the responsibility onto the learner to take some ownership around their career. And what we're saying is you can't attend any formal education unless you've gone through this e-learning, and we can check that because we can check through our Fuse analysis about who has actually done that. So that was a critical point for us, this transfer of responsibility, and a beautiful asset to make that happen. And then the next thing that we did was really, as the business strategy was being created and crystallized, around these 10 services and 8 sectors, we went out to each of those teams and built an animation with them around a kind of elevator pitch about their services and sector. So they kind of had an ownership piece because they were helping us create that elevator pitch. And then they were also very proud of the fact that it ended in this beautiful asset that they could use either for themselves for learning, but also out with clients. And they've also got it mobile enabled, so they're able to go out to a client and say, well, let me tell you a little bit about what PA does, some of the services sectors that we work in, and actually let me show you some of those things. And we worked very heavily with marketing, who were delighted because there's a free 2-for-1 deal here, and they kind of did us a bit of a wrapper around what those looked like and how they would sell out. So that worked really, really well. We also did a lot of work on involving stakeholders. We took a lot of video material around what do you do in your role, and when you go to market, how are you selling out? And we did a lot of work with some of our senior team as well. In the middle there is, on the right hand side is our CEO, Alan Middleton, and we did a lot of work going out to various senior stakeholders and asking them what did learning mean to them, what does the academy mean to them, how do they learn through experience, etc. So people could see the engagement there. And then the last thing that we did was create a set of key tools. So we looked across the organisation and we said, okay, what is it that we have as key tools? Top-down thinking, some of you know that as the pyramid principle, the consulting model, sales world change model, and our values piece. And we created some simple 2D animations around that as well. So we wanted to kind of build out this PA toolkit, if you will, so that consultants can use that quite early on, and it links to all of our programs. So, as I say, we're only like a few weeks in. What's working? We've seen 1,198 hits on the career development planning tool. So that means, basically, almost half the organisation have already logged into that. Risen straight to the top of the leaderboard. We've created learning assets of exceptional quality, and then we took the business decision to use the academy for the launch of the capability group. So all those little groups, communities that you saw, on the right-hand side of the community slide, those are only through the academy. So you actually go and join one. You might join Change, or you might join Leadership, or you might join something digital. They're kind of like the water cooler, if you will, of the communities. And then on the other side, I'd say, we just got to hold the party line, because we're in a little bit of everybody's gone onto the academy, that's great, now where's my program? So we're in this little bit here, we've got to get back up and getting people to, understand we've changed, we're not actually going back. And that, guess what, cultural change creates time. Really got to focus on the talent and learning team and what they've got to do to act as brokers and architects rather than order takers. And then getting to every partner. I think it's the partners that will drive, because it is still quite a hierarchical organisation in the sense that partner is king. How do we get out to those people and get them, understanding the change that we're making and supporting that? So just quickly then, the past, I won't go back through that. I'll just look at the future. So strategic focus on business performance and growth, business growth, and career. So getting the duality of those two things. And as I say, a lot of our programs, by the way, were focused on this transition and how do you feel? And I had one consultant ring me and say, how do I find out what programs are running in X hotel that we use in Cambridge? Because I really want to go on the programs that are in that hotel. And, give me a break. So, you know, what's in it for me is a cultural enabler. And I think I went to a talk this morning, I can't remember who it was now, but really this idea of employee engagement not being how's the company going to engage you, but how does everybody start getting engaged? And it's this piece about, you know, you go home, you're engaged, why aren't you engaged to that extent at work? And a development is the point rather than this promotion piece. Actually being able, as I start to scale down the budget on programs, I'm not losing budget actually, generously enough. I'm reusing that budget to bring in experts, and particularly around leadership and around business development, I'm able to then to hire in some really great people and start getting the company flow moving rather than recycling people. Truly blended, really, that's really what we're going to be focused on, enhancing the self-learning trends, and then the idea of this 24/7 learning platform. And that's very critical to us because we've got consultants out on site. We've got a lot of consultants who work in defence down in Cheltenham, and they can't access a lot of things during the day at all. So it's got to feel fun on their mobile when they start flicking through things to see what we've created or what their colleagues are creating as well. By the end of 2016, this is our goal. They're going to tell us, dude, I'm on it. They're actually creating stuff for the Academy. We're not out there trying to push stuff out. There's a mutuality there between the two of us. So, as I said, you're more than welcome to shoot me an email, and I can pop you over the slides if they're helpful to you in terms of what worked and what didn't work. All right.
Questions for Emma?
I'm just really intrigued to know, in an environment where everyone's struggling for money, how did you get that budget?
Well, I think I was lucky because I arrived at the point at which PA had launched, or were just on the cusp of launching their new strategy, and they had done an announcement around that about creating a new academy, and the intent of the strategy being around collaboration and agility. So I think there was a piece there where I was able to hook into the kind of the right, being in the right place at the right time, if you will. And actually PA have been incredibly successful. They're very small, some people know the name, but they're not one of the big four, but they do have their own niche, and they've made actually a lot of money, and they had money to invest back into the staff. It's an employee-owned firm, so they had money to invest back in. So I think it was more a case of being in the right place at the right time. What I will say is, though, I did hire a program manager to list out everything that we were going to be doing, to create the academy. And we had something like an 894-line project plan, and the CEO was the only person, I might tell you, who went through every single line of that project plan. So he knew exactly what he was paying for, and was quite, and that transparency. He was very comfortable with that, actually. So,
other questions?
I have a question on beautification, which I'm also a great believer in. I'm always disappointed when I walk the exhibition floor and see how ugly a quarter of our learning technology is. I don't know why people buy that. But being here, you created it pretty much yourself. What was actually stopping you from the beautification that you wanted to try and achieve?
Yeah, I think some of the requirements around what you can place where. So I think when I was talking about beautification, I wanted to go for a very modern look around kind of almost one image and then some pieces at the bottom. The Fuse platform doesn't necessarily allow for that, and Steve and I have had a few conversations about that. But I did feel that wasn't actually what we finally launched. Unfortunately, I haven't got that slide. But actually, what we did launch, I think, is good. Is probably you would. I think, David, you would say yes. It looks beautiful. You would say that.
Right,
I hope that's the case.
Hi. That was very impressive. Thank you. I'm curious about how, because actually what I'm kind of reading between the lines is that there was actually a major change happening in the organization that was almost a reason to actually be able to implement this. And I guess my question is, as you look at the culture of the organization in terms of what they're trying to shift, how do you and the resistance that can sometimes come from we used to be able to do whatever we wanted, and now you're not allowing us to do that. How are you finding that shift towards it's about enabling you to be able to do fantastic things, but creating a consistent platform and making it accessible to people? So how do you make it close enough for people to want to adapt it, but actually about something different and new and better?
Yeah, I mean, to this lady's point here, I've been lucky because I've been able to keep both my BAU budget and a build budget. So that's probably quite rare in organisations. And so what I've been doing is saying to people, well, I'm not turning off your courses, I'm enhancing them. And I'm actually starting to put them into the blended learning flow where I expect you to do these things before you come and attend something. And so actually putting up front, yes, you're going to still be having what you think you had already, which by the way you're not, but you're going to be going through this chain of events where you've got to do some other things for me. And what we're slowly doing is taking the 80 courses that we run at PA and putting them what I call the kind of the telephone box. And what I mean by that is, Clark Kent goes into the telephone box and comes out as Superman. Well, the telephone box is what I'm busy designing at the moment to put all of our programs through this thing where actually they will still be great programs, but there won't be as many of them, and there won't be these 5 days in a lovely hotel all holding hands singing something. I'm being a bit naughty, but that's the intent. So I've got an opportunity to kind of do that in stages, if you will, rather than I've got to switch stuff off because I'm not got the funding.
How many courses will there be at the end of 2016?
I think like one. No, I don't know. I don't know. As we go through them, we're actually looking at them. And one thing I'm trying to do is to go through every course actually and say what's repetition, what should be repetition, what's unnecessary repetition, where are the tools placed, what level are they aimed at, why are we running them with an external or internal trainer, all of those good questions, and to the extent at which I can strip out as much as I can, which is knowledge share, and keep them as experiential, networking and role-playing type programs. That's what I want to do. I don't want to.
You don't have a goal.
I don't have a goal in terms of, but I know that a number of them will go, having looked through them. As I say, because they've been, a partner will say, oh, I want that, and another partner will say, I want that. We're kind of running things that are similar for different partners. Well, that's not going to work at all. So that's where we'll see shrinkage.
Hiya, we're going through our own social learning adventure, I suppose is probably the best way of phrasing it. So we've got a small pilot of around 1,200 users. And what we're seeing is that people are really great at as sort of acting as content consumers, but not so great as acting as contributors. So what we see is in our graduate group, we've got all these. So we're over at Royal Mail, so we've got a massive operations graduate scheme where we take graduates in and send them out to all these delivery offices all over the country and put them in charge of managing real people, and they all have a minor panic in the first week. They're rushing out blogging, sharing experiences and doing all of that great stuff. But 3 weeks ago, I had a call from a senior manager basically asking me permission to share a leadership video on our own learning and development group. So I guess what I wanted to understand is, in terms of your social side, where are you on the sort of spectrum from people acting purely as consumers to acting as contributors?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, typically we know this, I don't know what all the statistics are. If you speak to one person, it's something, somebody it's something else. It might be 1% or 5% people actively create something, the rest are stalking, and then other people are maybe looking a few times. So the intent is absolutely to drive up the creation side. As I say, there's three things that we've done. In one way, we're quite lucky because we do have people who've got a lot of digital and technical capability because they sell that out as consulting, and so they're very keen. So they are already creating things from that point of view. The second thing we did was we ensured that all of the communities had a learning lead from the different services and sectors, and we've trained them up. So Fuse have actually trained them for us on how do you create community, what do you do with that community, and how do you keep it alive, and all those good things. And then the third thing is actually, I have been lucky with some of the senior stakeholders. So our chairman, Marcus Aegis, for example, I spent an hour with him the other week going through the academy with him and showing him all the different assets, and he's going to do the first of our kind of micro videos talking about how he's learnt something through experience in a very simple format, just one of the team videoing him, no production. So kind of starting to show the way, and I'll be going out hounding all of the partners, as I said here, to get there. Once I've got markers, I can kind of then go and tumble the dominoes, if you will, with the rest of the partners to get them starting to think about that. So I think that's that getting some really senior stakeholders like your guy is very critical.
So what we're going to do now in the last 5 to 10 minutes is give you the opportunity, if you wanted to ask any comparative types of questions, any questions to Abel or Emma after seeing both presentations together. So take a moment and let me know if there's any of those types of questions out there.
I think it's a question for both of you. It's about intercultural awareness, because it's in English, so it can travel around the world. Are you aware of intercultural awareness, or or what are you?
Absolutely. Well, actually, Fuse translates all of the content into whatever language. So they've just launched that feature, and that was a big important piece for us as well. So we know we can get the transcripts in different languages. So we have quite a big presence in the Nordics, although clearly most of our Nordics colleagues speak English. They still have the ability to see that in different languages and create in.
But what I also mean is, when you show a video, in Saudi Arabia, you can have women who are dressed excited, for instance. So, do you have a?
Yeah, I mean, I guess all of the stuff that we've created, where we've looked at kind of high-end learning assets, have been animations. So they've not been, they're kind of conceptual animations, if you will, around the toolkit and around the services and sectors. Where we've got talking heads, we've gone out across the world and had various people talking about when they go to market, what happens, what services do they take to what sectors, and those have been kind of agnostic of, location or whatever. And then our senior team are all based, I mean, it's a UK headquartered firm, so they are based here, and some of the heads that you will have seen there are, are our UK management committee, if you will. So I think we've been aware of the translation ability. Clearly, we haven't kind of said, okay, well, have we videoed this person, and what does that mean? One of the things we did do is we launched a whole series of communication videos called the 12 Days of Learning, and they were tiny little animations, and we wanted to do them before the break on December for Christmas, but we made very careful to complete them, create them agnostic of religion or anything like that. We just talked about them as 12 days of learning and made them very, very, made them a lot of fun. Actually, I'd show you one, but I haven't got one with me. So, but anyway, yeah. So I guess for Abel, that's probably a bigger question.
Can you tell something about it?
Regarding diversity in the courses themselves, it's close to an obsession for us. So really, like, you would see just about every human being possible, and some are almost human. The only thing we didn't do actually was once, so we had some SMEs who were insisting to have purple characters, so we thought it was maybe pushing it too far. In terms of languages, it's a struggle because we are a small team. The main languages we are asked for at the moment are Spanish and French beyond English. Because of some like West Africa for French and Latin America for Spanish, where they do work in those languages. But the approach we've had so far has been to kind of support translations only when there is a real demand for the course in that particular language, because we also find that language skills are kind of upgrading, and a number of assets are just fine in English. In practice, we do have quite a lot of content in other languages already in the platform. And the temporary solution we've had for people who are really struggling with English for the platform has been to implement Google Translate block. So it's kind of funny sounding, when you translate, but you can find find your way through the platform. We are kind of considering whether or not to translate the interface in at least Spanish and French. I know it's going to be a huge amount of work. So probably like something we will put in the request for funds and also like a larger team at the moment.
Well, thank you all for your attention. There's a celebration we have out there, I think, to give a toast. But thanks to Abel and Emma. Thank you very much.